That's a bit of a trick, isn't it? Back around there, good on you, mate. Right, hello again bikers, time for my next vlog and my CB500X owner's review after about 10,000 miles. And so this time we get around to the good news. So what are the really good things about the CB500X in my opinion? So I think I'll start with number one, is that it's just a very versatile bike. And I guess that's it's one of the reasons, of course, that is often said in reviews that it's a good first big bike. It feels like a full-size bike and you can get used to it, but it's not overly large and you can do a lot of stuff on it. So in my case, when I got this bike, I didn't really know what sort of riding I wanted to do. I guess I was assuming it might be more one-off, longer trips, and that the bike would spend quite a bit of time parked in the garage in between those, and I didn't know whether I'd ride it much over the winter, which is long and dark and quite miserable here in the UK. So, part of the bike's role was to experiment and see what sort of things I enjoyed on it. So what I found out over the last 2 years really is that actually I've done a few of those longer trips, but I really enjoy riding the bike around town just locally. So I use it quite a lot just for going to the gym, popping out for coffee, going to the shops when it's just a small amount of stuff you need to pick up, that sort of thing. It's quite fun zipping around town on this bike. It's small enough and manageable enough to be happy doing that. And you get a free parking in a remarkable number of places here in the UK, which is a bit of a bonus. So actually, when you look over the miles I've done on this bike, much more of it's turned out to be day-to-day sort of local commuting, rather than the longer trips, and it does that really well. But having said that it does those sorts of trips really well, it's got enough power to be comfortable on the motorways. Now obviously it'd be misleading to suggest it's anything like an R1200 GS on motorway travel, but it's certainly got enough power to sit comfortably with the normal speed of motorway traffic in the UK. So really we're talking about 70 miles an hour, which is what's at 110, 115 kilometers an hour type cruising, sort of bursts up to 80 to 85 to overtake at times, but don't tell the Rozzers that. But just normal cruising, and so it doesn't feel like you're on a small bike that shouldn't be out there. I mean, obviously you can ride on the motorway and anything, including a CRF 250L, but I can't say that I'd really want to spend hours in the UK on a motorway on a bike like that without enough power to keep up with and get out of the way of normal traffic out there. So it's good around town, but it's also comfortable on the motorways, or comfortable enough. And I mean, you can ride it as long as you like. Obviously some people ride it around the world, which is extreme, but from a sort of a normal user's perspective, I found it quite comfortable. So it's great on the little stuff around town, and that's really where most of my mileage has been done, as it turns out. And I've done a few sort of short trips, 2 or 3 days, 700 miles type stuff, and it's fine for that. So number one is it's really versatile, and it's enabled me to try different types of riding on the one bike, and it's reasonably heavy across a range of types of riding. So that's my first really strong point with the bike. I think the second is a function of its limited power. So I think on my Niggles video I did mention that obviously there's some limitations from the 47 horsepower, but it has some benefits as well. And one of them is that you can ride the bike hard, or what feels like hard, and have a lot of fun on it, fanging around your local roads, and it feels like you're going fast and you get the fun and enjoyment of that, but actually in most cases you're still pretty much within legal speed limit ranges. So it's fun ripping it up to 60-70 miles an hour. Beyond 85 it runs out of steam. It doesn't have the power to sustain speeds much above that, or to accelerate heavily beyond that. So it's actually quite good fun, right? And I know So a lot of riders in the UK seem to have learned on small bikes and then gone straight to very big bikes, and they've missed out on that sort of intermediate step. And I know some of those characters, they say, well, you know, my bike's got lots of power, I don't have to use it, but if I want it, it's there, you know, why would I go for less? It's a little bit hard to explain the reasoning to someone who hasn't ridden a bike of this size, that it's really fun being able to wind the throttle properly open and ride hard, but at the same time not to be really risking your neck and not being rapidly propelled to speeds which are in license losing territory. So actually, although it has its limitations, I think that this little engine is actually fun, and it's particularly good fun for local commuting, you know, back roads, the sort of 50-60 mile an hour stuff, which actually in this environment is very, very common. So that's my second big point, really, is that actually you can have a lot of fun on this while keeping it real, is what I like to say, which means, you know, keeping your license intact and hopefully your life as well. So I think the really third big selling point for the bike, and call me tight if you like, but it's an economic bike in numerous ways. I don't know what they're doing there, but it's economic as a purchase option, and that's obvious when you look at the prices. About $6,000 or something like that here in the UK new, and there's oodles of bikes available second hand near new for $3,000 to $4,000, which is not a lot of money, and then you can do a lot with that. So it's cheap to buy, it's cheap to service, and that is one of the showstoppers for me. Obviously I have my bikes, like every biker, that I'd really quite like to have in the garage. One of those bikes is a Tiger 800. Triumph Tiger 800 would be nice, it would look very nice in my garage. And I do have fits and starts thinking maybe I should buy one. But then when you go and do the research and find out how much it costs to service it every year, and particularly every second year, it's a big service, which is very, very, very expensive. My eyes water and I go off the idea. So service costs is a big one for me. Obviously insurance, road tax tends to be quite good on bikes like this. And then directly related to the service cost issue, because it's a relatively simple bike, if you want to, you can just service it yourself quite easily. Just buy yourself a Haynes manual and away you go. I know people in the UK tend to like to have a full service history from a dealer, but if you buy this second hand like I did, and you're going to keep it for any great length of time, then it's only going to be worth a couple of grand when you go to shift it anyway. So, you know, servicing yourself is not a big deal, and if you sell it on the CB500 forums, I think, you know, people are quite happy with other people having done their own job. So certainly looking forward, if I keep this bike much longer, then that's one of the things I'll do, is I'll just service it myself, and that keeps it cheap. Does that make me tight? Yeah, I suppose it does in the one sense, but the reality is that, like a lot of riders, my bike, it's a hobby, right? And I really like it, but it is a hobby, and it's got a you know, there's got to be a reasonable limit to what you spend on it, and certainly in my case also, like a lot of other bikers, I think, it's only one of a fleet of bikes, and I spend quite a lot more on my dirt bikes, which is still my priority at the moment. So in terms of that, I've got a limit to how much I'm prepared to spend on bikes in aggregate. The fact that this bike is cheap to run keeps it in my garage for the time being, and probably for quite a while after. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.